My name is Courtney Dawson, and today I'm going to be discussing the I Have a Dream speech by civil rights leader Martin Luther King, Jr. King delivered the speech on August 28, 1963, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom was one of the largest political rallies for human rights in the United States history, and it also called for civil and economic rights for African Americans. The 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s were very difficult times for African Americans. They were treated horribly just because of the color of their skin, and Martin Luther King Jr. was driven to change that. The speech was considered to be great for many reasons. First, it brought great attention to the civil rights movement, which had been going on for years. The speech made Congress move faster in passing the Civil Rights Act. These set of laws were passed the year after King's speech. The laws gave African Americans more equal treatment than they had ever had. An estimated 200,000 to 300,000 people participated in the march where King delivered his famous speech. Observers estimated that 75 to 80% of the marchers involved were black. The message that King delivered was that he had a dream that one day the nation would live up to the true meaning of the part of the Declaration of Independence that says, "All men are created equal," and how the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners would all be able to get along. King mostly uses pathos during his speech, and the first instance is at the start of his speech when he said, "I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation." King established himself as a friend and a peer who assisted people who had been denied rights. King used anaphora during his speech by using the phrase, "I have a dream," in 8 different sentences. He also used personification when he said, "The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges." All in all, King's speech impacted America so greatly that it will never be forgotten. Here is a condensed version of King's speech. I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon, light of hope, to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, I say to you today, my friends. And so, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. This is our hope, and this is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, and to stand up for freedom together, knowing that one day we will be free.